When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Patience is a virtue, and I'm learning patience. It's a tough lesson. If something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning and enjoy working. People should pursue what they're passionate about. That will make them happier than pretty much anything else. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. We're running the most dangerous experiment in history right now, which is to see how much carbon dioxide the atmosphere can handle before there is an environmental catastrophe. I think you should always bear in mind that entropy is not on your side. I always invest my own money in the companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I don't think that's right. I'm not going to ask other people to invest in something if I'm not prepared to do so myself. Starting a business is not for everyone. Starting a business, I'd say, number one is have a high pain threshold. It's very important to like the people you work with. Otherwise, your job is going to be quite miserable. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. Brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product. Any product that needs a manual to work is broken. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness to make sure it continues into the future. If humanity doesn't land on Mars in my lifetime, I would be very disappointed. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. When Henry Ford made cheap, reliable cars, people said, "Nah, what's wrong with a horse?" That was a huge bet he made, and it worked. In order to have your voice be heard in Washington, you have to make some little contribution. If you're entering anything where there's an existing marketplace, against large, entrenched competitors, then your product or service needs to be much better than theirs. It can't be a little bit better, because then you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. You're always going to buy the trusted brand unless there's a big difference. If I'm not in love, if I'm not with a long-term companion, I cannot be happy. The problem is that in a lot of big companies, process becomes a substitute for thinking. You're encouraged to behave like a little gear in a complex machine. Frankly, it allows you to keep people who aren't that smart, who aren't that creative. The United States is definitely ahead in culture of innovation. If someone wants to accomplish great things, there is no better place than the US. If we drive down the cost of transportation in space, we can do great things. A company is a group organized to create a product or service, and it is only as good as its people and how excited they are about creating. I do want to recognize a ton of super talented people. I just happen to be the face of the companies. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. You could warm Mars up, over time, with greenhouse gases. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. If you don't have sustainable energy, you have unsustainable energy. The fundamental value of a company like Tesla is the degree to which it accelerates the advent of sustainable energy faster than it would otherwise occur. Life is too short for long-term grudges. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. I would like to die on Mars, just not on impact. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. I think there should be regulations on social media to the degree that it negatively affects the public good. Great companies are built on great products. Rockets are cool. There's no getting around that. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. When I was in college, I wanted to be involved in things that would change the world. There have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? If the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that incredibly depressing. If you go back a few hundred years, what we take for granted today would seem like magic, being able to talk to people over long distances, to transmit images, flying, accessing vast amounts of data like an oracle. These are all things that would have been considered magic a few hundred years ago.